Spring break in Hawaii sounds like a dream. Everyone's out of school, but for a lot of families, it turns out to be a financial nightmare that they didn't see coming. So in this episode, you'll discover exactly what a spring break trip in Hawaii costs in 2026, the critical planning mistakes that catch most families off guard, and how to make sure your trip is one your family remembers for all the right reasons. Aloha and welcome to Hawaii's Best, the podcast helping you plan an unforgettable Hawaii vacation with clear, practical guidance. I'm Bryan Murphy, a certified Hawaii destination expert, husband, and dad of 3, and each week I break down what actually matters for your Hawaii trip, drawing from local insights and firsthand experience so you can plan with confidence and travel with aloha. If you're anything like the hundreds of people who reach out to me every year around this time, seriously, through DMs, emails, you're probably asking yourself, is this actually an amazing idea, or is it just going to be a really expensive mistake? Is Hawaii during this time even worth visiting? And it's really one of the most common questions I get. And today I'm going to do my best to go ahead and answer that, plus cover everything you need to know and how to make this year, 2026, your best Hawaii trip ever. But first, let's talk a little bit about the myth. When you hear spring break, you might picture wild college parties and total chaos. Think, Cancun. But in Hawaii, it's a lot different, and that's really not the reality. You might get pockets of that maybe in Waikiki, but it's not super crazy. Spring break in Hawaii is more of a family season. The average visitor to Hawaii is in their mid-40s like me. And honestly, the islands are one of the more expensive destinations in the world, which naturally filters out kind of that party college crowd. So what does spring break actually look like in Hawaii? Well, it's busy, I think obviously goes without saying, but it's not like Christmas week busy. It's not like peak summer busy in July. Visitor numbers in March and early April are about 14% higher than the quieter months. So think January and February. You'll feel it at the, popular beaches, rental car counters. There might not be as much available as far as cars. So that's a tip we'll get into in a minute. And definitely at restaurants. So if you have thoughts for visiting a certain restaurant, definitely would recommend you getting those reservations in. But here's the thing, it's manageable if you plan for it. Now, one note for 2026 is you'll want to pay attention to for this year is that Easter Sunday falls on April 5th. That means the week right before, roughly March 29th through April 4th, is going to be kind of the peak of the peak. So typically spring break is before Easter, sometimes after, sometimes 2 weeks before, or a couple weeks after. I think our girls get 2 weeks before, something like that. But it depends on the school districts, wherever you're at. Typically that week right before Easter is going to be highest. You're going to see the prices are going to be the highest, crowds are going to be the busiest. So just keep that in mind, have that in the back of your head as you're planning. But one practical tip is if you've got, any flexibility at all, try to avoid arriving on a Saturday. That might be tough because if you only have 7 days off, you want to maximize it. And I totally get it. You might just have to do the Saturday. But if you're able to do like a Tuesday, maybe Wednesday's a little bit later, but a Tuesday, you're going to save a lot of stress because you're going to have shorter lines at the car rentals. You're going to have a calmer airports. You're going to start your vacation off, I think, a little bit less stressful. So the biggest question I get is the cost. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to be as transparent as I can be here because this is where a lot of families really get caught off guard. You budget for the flight, hotel, and then you land and you're thinking, wait, well, that's just a beginning. That's just, to get there. So let's talk through what a spring break trip actually costs for a family of 4. We're going to use that as an example. So lodging first, for a decent family-friendly hotel resort, especially on Maui or Oahu, you're looking at $500 to $600 a night as kind of your starting point. On top of that, you got resort fees. Most 3 to 5 star properties are charging between anywhere, $40 and $60 per night on top of your room rate. The cost you see on the website to book, you got to factor in there's going to be more on top of that. So, well, before I get ahead of myself, there's also taxes. So when you combine the state's transient accommodations tax, the new green fee that went into effect January 1st of this year, and county surcharges, you're paying between 18 and 19% in taxes on your lodging. On a $600 room, that's over $100 a night just in taxes. So now you got to add in a rental car at 80, that's the low end, $80 to $100 a day, plus parking fees at $30 to $40 a night. And then suddenly, before you bought a single meal or done a single activity, you're going to be looking at over $800 a day easily. Really, my number one budgeting tip for a family, it's a simple one, is to stop at the grocery store on your first day. This is what we do. We usually stop at Costco. You also have Safeway, Foodland, Target. So what we do, we'll stock up on breakfast items and get snacks and also lunches. And then we budget for dinner out every night. And that can roughly run, I think on the low end, like $150 to $200 for a family of four for eating dinner. But by handling some meals yourself, you can easily save that $500 or more just over the course of the week. So just stocking up on breakfast, snack items, easy lunches, stuff that you can grab and go for the beach, that's going to save you a lot of money. I should note before I move on, I created this budget trip calendar for 2026. It has all these figures in it. I'm going to leave the link to that calendar in the show notes below. You don't have to enter your email or anything like that. It's a free tool for you to use to go ahead and help with your budgeting for your trip to Hawaii. So regardless if you're visiting during spring break or any time in the near future, this year, next year, 2027, there's been a lot of changes for Hawaii travel in 2026 that I think every visitor should know. First, the vacation rental situation is important to know. If you're planning to book an Airbnb or Vrbo, please do your homework and make sure you're booking a legal vacation rental. Maui County in particular has been aggressively cracking down on short-term rentals to create more housing for local residents. And thousands of previously legal rentals are being phased out. On the Big Island, it's also tightened up, and you'll see enforcement on their new registration requirements starting this July of 2026. So what does this all mean for you? Fewer legal rentals are going to become available, and prices are going to be going up. Supply and demand, economics 101. So my recommendation for 2026 and beyond is a hotel or a legal condo resort is your safest bet. We always stay at a hotel or a resort. That's just what we do. And if you do book a vacation rental, just verify it and actually verify it. It has valid state and county permits. Second, it's kind of minor, but it's important to know because it's a new parking law in Hawaii. It's statewide. So no matter what island you're on, you can't park within 20 feet of any crosswalk or intersection. And I think I'm in Southern California, and I think California passed something similar as well. It might be 10 or 15 feet. But anyways, it applies even if there's no posted sign. And the fine is around $50. So if you get that towed, you're looking at easily $300 to get it back. Rental cars are easy targets, so just be aware of that. All right, so with all that stuff in mind, how do you actually make spring break in Hawaii amazing? So let's go ahead and look at this a little bit together. It starts with picking the right island for your family. I've had a couple episodes where I dove into that. Actually, just a couple days ago, I did a Maui and Kauai comparison. So maybe you're thinking about those islands, go back and listen to that. But just a quick overview, if you want variety and backup options in case the weather doesn't cooperate, because you could get some rain, Oahu is your best bet for that. So you got museums, lots of shopping, easy access to just about anything. And if you want that classic resort experience and you're hoping to spot some humpback whales because March is still peak season for that, Maui is an incredible option. Plenty of spots on the west side of Maui, Ka'anapali, or in Wailea, Kihei area. So you got spots over there on the south shore as well. But just know it's going to be the most expensive option, and you're going to want to book early if you're even thinking of considering Maui. Now, if you want more space, fewer crowds, a little bit more availability, and you're okay with longer drives, the Big Island of Hawaii gives you a lot more room to breathe. We love the Big Island. You just don't feel like you're crammed on the Big Island because, well, it's big. There's just a lot more space on Hawaii Island. And Kauai, if you're looking for adventure and you have maybe older kids or younger kids, but we like taking our older kids to Kauai now that they're in their teens, and you don't mind a little rain because you're probably more than likely out of any of the islands going to get rain on Kauai, but the views on Kauai are just spectacular. So whatever island you choose, though, my biggest tip for activity advice is don't overschedule. If you've got just a week in Hawaii and you've got maybe like a morning boat tour, that afternoon should be pool time or nap. Take a day off, do a resort day. Activity on top of activity is just going to be a recipe for burnout. So you got to think about if you're traveling with kids and you're probably going to be traveling back on a Saturday or Sunday and they go back to school on Monday, you don't want to go back wiped. So you're going to want to build in some downtime no matter how much you think you want to do. If you're thinking about booking timelines, here's really how to think about it. You want to lock in your lodging and rental car at least 6 to 12 months out. So this year, if you're thinking about getting into spring break, it's going to be pretty tough. But if you're thinking about planning for 2027, now is a time to go ahead and start looking into that. And flights, I usually book 6 to 9 months out. Sometimes I get a little spicy and I wait to the last minute and get a good deal. But I only do that if I'm traveling, if it's just my wife and I, Allie. I don't do that if we're traveling as a family. But I've booked a flight before, like a couple weeks out, and got a pretty good deal. That's not always the case, but that's if you have some flexibility. So to answer the question, is spring break in Hawaii an amazing idea or is it an expensive mistake? And my honest answer is it's an amazing idea if you plan for it. It's only a mistake if you try to wing it or try to go with unrealistic budget expectations. But the families who do it well, they book early, they budget honestly, and they know the rules before they arrive. So do that, and you're going to create some amazing memories that'll last a lifetime. Like I mentioned, go ahead and take advantage of that Hawaii trip calculator link below. And if all this is a bit overwhelming still, know that you can reach out to me for one-on-one Hawaii trip planning support, and I'll drop a link in the show notes below for more information on that. All right. And until next time, as always, live with aloha. Mahalo for listening to Hawaii's Best. If you found today's episode helpful, make sure to hit follow on your podcast app so you don't miss future episodes. You can find all links and resources mentioned today in the show notes below. Hawaii's Best is produced by Shorebreak Media Group, edited by Easy Podcast Solutions, and with music by our friends Stick Figure.